The vast observation viewport of the Sentinel's Wrath offered Commander Aaron Voss an unobstructed view of the Thraxis scouting fleet, 50 ships in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming with the telltale iridescent shimmer of advanced alien metallurgy. Her orders had been explicit. Observe only. Document their movements through the contested asteroid belt that marked the unofficial boundary between Thraxis space and the human-controlled Outer Rim Coalition territories. Maintaining stealth protocols, Commander, Lieutenant Shale reported from his station, fingers dancing across the holographic interface. They haven't detected our presence. Aaron nodded, her gaze fixed on the alien armada. The Thraxis had been pushing boundaries for months, their incursions growing bolder with each cycle. But humanity's response had been measured, perhaps too measured. The Coalition Council insisted on diplomatic solutions, fearful of provoking the vastly superior alien forces that dominated the galactic core. Ensign Mira, any changes in their weapons status? Aaron asked, turning to the young officer whose haunted eyes belied her youth. Negative, Commander. Standard patrol configurations. Mira's voice carried the subtle tremor it always did when discussing alien weaponry. Aaron knew why. 3 years ago, Mira had watched her entire platoon dissolve under Thraxis experimental weapons fire during the Proxima incident. She was one of only 3 survivors. The bridge fell silent, the routine observation mission proceeding with practiced efficiency, until it wasn't routine anymore. Commander, Zara called out, her usually irreverent tone replaced by alarm. Something just dropped out of FTL near the Thraxis fleet. Aaron spun toward the tactical display. Identification. Unknown configuration, Shale reported, his voice tightening. Black hull, no markings, no transponder signal. On the viewport, a silhouette materialized against the star field. Sleek, obsidian, moving with unsettling precision toward the Thraxis fleet. Its design was unmistakably human, yet unlike any vessel in the Coalition registry. Are they mad? Aaron whispered. A single ship against 50? Hail them, now. No response on any frequency, Zara reported. They're just sitting there. The tension on the bridge thickened as the unknown vessel held position, seemingly sizing up the Thraxis fleet. The aliens had noticed the intruder now, their formation shifting into defensive arrays, weapon ports glowing with charged energy. They're going to be atomized, Shale muttered. But then, something impossible happened. A pulse, invisible to the naked eye but registering as a ripple across every sensor on the Sentinel's Wrath, emanated from the black ship. It washed over the Thraxis fleet in expanding concentric waves, and the alien vessels began to implode. One by one, then in clusters, then all at once. The mighty warships collapsed inward, as if the very atoms comprising their hulls had forgotten how to hold their form. No explosions, no debris, just 50 warships folding in on themselves like origami sculptures crushed by an invisible hand. 4 minutes. That was all it took. Where a battle-ready armada had been, only empty space remained. What in the name of Earth just happened? Zara breathed, breaking the stunned silence on the bridge. Aaron couldn't answer. Her eyes were fixed on the sensor readings. No conventional weapons had been fired. No energy signatures matched any known offensive system. Whatever that pulse was, it had simply rewritten matter. The vessel is changing course, Shale reported, his voice unnaturally steady. It's heading back toward Coalition space. Aaron's orders echoed in her mind. Observe only. But this was beyond observation. This was a game changer, and something deep in her gut told her that the ship's human design was no coincidence. Track it, she ordered. Maintain distance, but do not lose that ship. Commander, Mira spoke up, her voice barely audible. The sensor readings, they match something I've heard whispered about. Project Revenant. All eyes turned to the young ensign, whose hands had begun to tremble. They said it was just a rumor, Mira continued. A ship crewed by the dead, or rather, by those who should be dead, veterans so traumatized, their minds were repurposed. Revenge from the fridge, Zara quipped nervously, earning glares from the others. Sorry, inappropriate humor is my coping mechanism. Aaron turned back to the viewport, watching the black ship glide silently into the darkness. Whatever it is, she said quietly, it just changed everything, and we need to find out why. The coded transmission arrived 6 hours later, directly to Aaron's private terminal. Her security clearance should have been insufficient to receive such data, which meant someone wanted her to see it. The file contained fragments, redacted documents, partial schematics, personnel files with more black bars than text, but together they painted a disturbing picture. Project Revenant, a Black Ops initiative buried under so many classification layers that even its existence was considered above top secret. The scattered information suggested something both brilliant and horrific, a symbiotic neural interface between traumatized human consciousness and advanced ship systems. Minds shattered by war, redirected to power a new kind of weapon. Erin sat alone in her quarters, the blue light of the terminal casting shadows across her face. The ethical implications made her stomach turn. She had joined the Coalition fleet to protect humanity, to ensure their survival in a galaxy dominated by older, more advanced civilizations. But this was vengeance, not protection. A soft chime announced a visitor. The door slid open to reveal Lieutenant Shale, his normally impassive face creased with concern. "You've seen it, then," he said, glancing at her terminal. Aaron nodded. "How many others know?" "Just those of us on the bridge during the incident. I've secured our sensor logs." He hesitated. "The question is, what do we do with this information?" It was the question that had been plaguing her since watching those alien ships implode. Coalition protocol was clear: report everything, especially concerning new weapons technology, but something about this felt different, wrong. "The diplomatic corps has already issued a statement," Shale continued. "They're suggesting the Thraxis fleet was destroyed in an internal power struggle. They're explicitly demanding suppression of any evidence suggesting human involvement." "They're afraid," Aaron said, "and perhaps rightly so. If the Thraxis and the Noor Alliance both realize we possess this technology, it could unite them against us." Shale finished. "Humanity would face extermination." Aaron closed the files with a gesture. "Or it could force a reassessment of humanity's position in the galactic hierarchy. No longer the upstart species to be tolerated at the fringes." "Is that worth the risk?" Shale challenged. "The combined might of both empires would—" "I know the odds, Lieutenant." Aaron cut him off. "What I don't know is whether I can pretend I didn't see what I saw, whether I can live with the knowledge that we're deploying weapons that—" She struggled to find the words. "That unmake reality itself." Shale was silent for a long moment. "For what it's worth, Commander, I don't think you can. It's not who you are." After he left, Aaron stood at her viewport, staring into the void. Beyond the visible stars lay the vast territories of the alien empires that had, for centuries, regarded humanity as barely more than a curiosity, a species too young to be a real threat, too resource-poor to be worth conquering, too scattered to be taken seriously. Until now, her comm unit chirped with an incoming transmission, Priority 1 from Coalition Command. She activated it to find Admiral Trent's stern visage filling the screen. "Commander Voss," he said without preamble, "your vessel has been reassigned, effective immediately." Aaron frowned. "Sir, we're in the middle of a patrol rotation." "The Sentinel's Wrath is to proceed to coordinates being transmitted to your navigation officer," You are to track and observe the vessel designated unknown, but under no circumstances are you to approach or engage. Is that understood?" So they knew. Of course they knew. "Understood, Admiral. May I ask the purpose of this observation?" Trent's expression hardened. "You may not. Proceed to the coordinates. Commander, Trent out." The screen went dark, leaving Aaron with more questions than answers. But one thing was clear: whatever Project Revenant was, whatever that black ship represented, it was now her responsibility. And she would have to decide where her true duty lay, with her orders, or with her conscience. 3 days of tracking the unknown had led the Sentinel's Wrath deep into uncharted territory, a derelict asteroid field once mined by human colonies before the Noor Alliance had pushed them out decades ago. The perfect hiding place for a ghost ship, radiation interference from ancient mining operations, gravitational anomalies from collapsed tunnels, and debris that could confuse sensor arrays. "I've lost it again," Zara reported, frustration evident in her voice. "That ship moves like it knows exactly where the sensor gaps are." "Because it does," Ensign Mira said quietly. She had become increasingly withdrawn since the incident, spending her off-duty hours scouring the ship's archives for any reference to Project Revenant. If the rumors are true, the ship and pilot are one consciousness. It would perceive space differently than our instruments. Aaron studied the tactical display, noting the last known trajectory of the unknown. "It's not trying to lose us," she realized. "It's leading us somewhere." "Commander," Shale cut in, "I'm detecting an unusual energy signature, bearing 227 Mark 40. On screen, the view screen shifted to display a massive asteroid, nearly twice the size of the Sentinel's Wrath. Its surface was pockmarked with impact craters and abandoned mining shafts. But what caught Aaron's attention was the faint blue glow emanating from one of the larger openings. "Life support?" she asked. Shale consulted his readings. Minimal, enough for a brief EVA, but not sustainable for long-term habitation. Aaron made her decision. "Prepare a shuttle. I want a closer look." "Commander," Shale protested, "Admiral Trent's orders were explicit. Observe only. And we have observed the unknown leading us directly to this location." Aaron countered. "I'm not proposing we engage the vessel, simply that we investigate its apparent destination." It was a thin justification, and they both knew it, but Shale merely nodded, recognizing the determination in his commander's eyes. 30 minutes later, Aaron found herself piloting a small shuttle toward the asteroid, with Mira as her only companion. The young ensign had volunteered, citing her research into Project Revenant as potentially valuable for what they might find. "You've been unusually quiet about what you've discovered," Aaron noted as they approached the asteroid's surface. Mira's gaze remained fixed on the sensor readings. "Most of it is fragmented, classified files that were purged but left traces in system caches. But," she hesitated, "I found personnel lists, names of soldiers reported killed in action who were actually transferred to a facility called Lazarus Deep. All of them had suffered severe psychological trauma." "Like you," Aaron said softly. Mira's hands stilled. "Yes, like me. I could have been one of them. Commander, if my psych evaluation had gone differently after Proxima." The shuttle touched down on a flat section of the asteroid near the glowing entrance. Both women donned environmental suits, checked their sidearms, and prepared to disembark. "Stay close," Aaron instructed. "At the first sign of danger, we retreat." The abandoned mining tunnel was eerily preserved, gravity generators still functioning just enough to allow them to walk rather than float. Their helmet lights cut through the darkness, revealing machinery frozen in time, left exactly as it had been when the miners evacuated. But as they ventured deeper, the tunnel changed. The rock walls gave way to something else, a material that seemed to pulse with faint light, mapping intricate circuitry patterns across the surfaces. "This isn't mining technology," Erin said, her voice tight. Mira ran a gloved hand along one wall, her expression hidden behind her helmet visor. "It's neural mapping," she whispered, "like brain scans, but physical." The tunnel widened into a chamber, and both women stopped short. Before them stood the unknown, the black ship they had been tracking. But it wasn't merely docked in the chamber, it seemed to have grown from it, as if the asteroid itself had given birth to the vessel. The same pulsing circuitry from the walls extended across the ship's hull, creating an unbroken connection. And standing before the ship, as if waiting for them, was a figure in a simple gray jumpsuit. Human, male, his face gaunt, eyes sunken, but burning with an intensity that made Erin's skin crawl even through her environmental suit. He wore no helmet, somehow breathing in the thin atmosphere. "Commander Erin Voss," he said, his voice echoing oddly in the chamber, "and Ensign Mira Kale, survivor of Proxima." He tilted his head. "You should have been one of us." Mira stiffened beside her. Erin moved slightly forward, putting herself between the ensign and the stranger. "You have us at a disadvantage," Erin said carefully. "You know who we are, but we don't know you." The man's lips curved in what might have been a smile on a different face. On his, it looked like a scar reopening. "Revenant 1, he said. "Formerly Commander Leon Maris, 42nd Coalition Expeditionary Force." He gestured to the ship behind him. "Now we are this." Erin maintained her composure, though her heart hammered against her ribs. "You destroyed the Thraxis fleet." "We unmade them," Leon corrected. "Returned their matter to potentiality. No destruction, merely revision." "Why?" Leon's expression darkened. "Because they unmade us first, not just at Proxima. Before that, at Barnard's Star, at Epsilon Indi, at Tau Ceti, while your diplomatic corps bowed and scraped, while Coalition Command preached restraint, they were testing weapons on human outposts, weapons that unraveled DNA, that turned bones to dust." His voice had risen, the chamber resonating with his rage. The circuitry on the walls pulsed faster, brighter. "I was at Tau Ceti," he continued, softer now. "Watched my entire family decompose before my eyes. Wife, daughter, son. Then they patched me up, told me it was an isolated incident, sent me back out again and again until there was nothing left but this." He tapped his temple. "A mind uniquely suited to interface with the technology we reverse-engineered from their weapons. Ironic, isn't it? Their own instruments of horror turned against them." Erin felt Mira trembling beside her. "You're a weapon," the ensign whispered. "We all are," Leon replied. "Some of us are just more honest about it." He stepped closer, studying Erin through the faceplate of her helmet. "You're troubled, Commander. You believe in rules, in order, in the chain of command, but you've seen enough to doubt, to question whether the structures you serve truly serve humanity in return." Erin maintained eye contact. "I believe in justice, not vengeance. A luxury afforded to those who haven't watched their children dissolve." Leon's voice was ice. Then, without warning, he reached out and placed his hand on her helmet. The chamber disappeared. Erin was standing on the bridge of her first command, the frigate Dauntless. Around her, chaos, alarms blaring, crew shouting, the viewport filled with the impossible sight of a Noor Alliance dreadnought materializing from an experimental wormhole drive. Orders coming through to hold position, to protect the civilian transports evacuating the research station. The impossible choice: maintain position and be destroyed, or retreat and leave thousands of civilians to die. Her order to hold. The brutal battle that followed. The Dauntless torn apart around her, 23 crew lost. Her rescue, months later, from a life pod adrift in deep space. The commendation for her sacrifice. the promotion that felt like ash in her mouth. The memory, her memory, played out with perfect clarity, every detail, every emotion as raw as the day it happened. Then she was back in the asteroid chamber, gasping inside her helmet, legs buckling beneath her. Mira caught her arm, steadying her. "What did you do to her?" the ensign demanded. Leon's expression was almost gentle, showed her what she already knows, that the line between hero and weapon is drawn by those who never have to make the sacrifice. He turned his gaze to Mira. "Would you like to see what they would have made of you had you joined Project Revenant?" Before Mira could respond, alarms blared from their suit communicators. "Multiple ships entering the asteroid field," came Shale's urgent voice. "Thraxis and Noor Alliance signatures. They've found us, and they're charging weapons." Leon seemed unsurprised. They've been monitoring their dead fleet's last transmitted coordinates. Inevitable that they would trace the energy signature here eventually. He looked at Erin, still struggling to regain her composure. "Now you have a choice. Commander, fire your ship's weapons. Kill me. End Project Revenant. The Coalition will disavow all knowledge. Claim I was a rogue element. Perhaps it will be enough to prevent full-scale retaliation." He stepped back toward his ship, the circuitry on the walls flowing toward him like liquid light. "Or stand down. Let me show them what I showed you. The truth, all of it. Every experiment, every atrocity, every cover-up from all sides." Erin straightened, her mind racing. The Coalition would expect her to take the first option, clean, simple, a sacrifice for the greater good. But hadn't she made that sacrifice once before? Hadn't she already given enough to a system built on secrets and half-truths? "Commander," Mira said softly, "whatever you decide, I'm with you." Erin activated her comm. "Shale, this is Voss. Power down all weapon systems." "Commander," his disbelief was evident even through the static. "You heard me, Lieutenant. Power down weapons and broadcast on all frequencies. I want every ship in this sector to receive our transmission." "Erin, there are at least 30 warships converging on our position if we don't defend ourselves." "That's an order, Lieutenant." She cut the connection and turned to Leon. "Show them. Show everyone. But know this. If we survive what comes next, there will be accountability for all sides, including you." Leon's scarred smile returned. "I would expect nothing less, Commander." The circuitry around them pulsed once, blindingly bright, then settled into a steady rhythm as Leon melded back into his ship, becoming once more the entity known as the Unknown. The vessel hummed to life, the neural patterns flowing faster now, forming a network that extended throughout the chamber. Erin and Mira retreated to their shuttle, launching back toward the Sentinel's wrath, just as the first alien vessels entered visual range. On the shuttle's small viewport, they witnessed what happened next. The Unknown rose from the asteroid, dark against the star field, facing the incoming armada. Both Thraxis and Noor ships held position, weapons trained on the human vessel. For a moment, the tableau held, a silent standoff in the void. Then, instead of the reality-unmaking pulse they had witnessed before, the Unknown projected something else. Images, data, recordings, flooding every communication channel, overwhelming encryption, bypassing security protocols. The truth of Project Revenant? Yes, but more, much more. Thraxis experiments on human colonies, Noor Alliance sterilization programs in occupied territories, Coalition Black Ops retaliations, a cycle of atrocities, hidden from public view, perpetuated by leaders on all sides while ordinary citizens, human and alien alike, suffered the consequences. And through it all, the face and voice of Leon Maris, formerly a devoted Coalition officer, now the human component of something both less and more than human, narrating with the cold precision of the traumatized. By the time Aaron and Mira returned to the Sentinel's Wrath, the alien fleet had ceased target lock. No weapons fired. Instead, communication channels buzzed with confused chatter as ship commanders tried to process what they had seen, tried to contact their superiors for instructions in the face of exposed lies. On the bridge, Shale met them with a mixture of awe and concern. "Commander, what have you done?" Aaron removed her helmet, her expression resolute. "Chosen truth over comfortable lies. Lieutenant, transparency over secrets that fester into weapons like Project Revenant." "The Coalition Council is demanding an explanation," he reported. "Admiral Trent specifically has ordered your immediate return to headquarters for court-martial." "Let them try," Zara interjected, spinning in her chair with a defiant grin. Who knew therapy could outgun plasma cannons? The whole galaxy just got a front-row seat to the most extensive group counseling session in history. Despite everything, Aaron found herself smiling at the irreverent comment. "Send a message to Coalition Command. Inform them that the Sentinel's Wrath will be attending the emergency summit being organized at Aurora's Grace Station. All parties involved in this incident have agreed to neutral ground discussions." "A summit?" Shale's eyebrows rose. "How do you know there's going to be—" "Because there has to be," Mira said quietly. "What other choice is there now? War would mean admitting the truth of what's been revealed. No one wants that. Not the Thraxis High Command, not the Noor Conclave, and certainly not our Coalition Council." Aaron nodded. "Precisely. For once, the self-interest of political leadership aligns with the greater good. They'll negotiate because the alternative is facing their own populations with the truth." As the Sentinel's Wrath set course for Aurora's Grace, Aaron retreated to her quarters to prepare. The coming days would be challenging, explaining her actions, facing potential consequences, navigating the fragile possibility of a new relationship between humanity and the dominant galactic powers. But for the first time since the Dauntless, since the impossible choice that had haunted her, Aaron felt something like peace. Not because justice had been served, that would take much more work, but because the truth, however painful, had been given its voice. The neutral station Aurora's Grace had never hosted a gathering of this magnitude. Designed as a diplomatic outpost at the convergence of three territorial boundaries, its grand assembly hall could barely contain the representatives who had arrived from across the galaxy. Thraxis High Commanders with their characteristic silver-scaled crests fully extended in displays of authority. Noor Alliance Arbiters, their crystalline exoskeletons refracting light in complex patterns that conveyed emotional states indecipherable to most non-Noor, and humanity's Coalition Council members, looking distinctly uncomfortable as the numerical minority in the proceedings. Aaron stood at the center of it all, her formal uniform pristine despite the exhaustion evident in her eyes. 3 days of preliminary hearings had preceded this final assembly, with each faction attempting to control the narrative of what had occurred. But control had been wrested from them all by the continued broadcasts from the unknown, Leon Maris, or what remained of him within the neural network of his vessel, had systematically released evidence of every documented atrocity committed by all sides. The damning records, retrieved from classified archives, security footage, medical examinations of victims, and personal logs of those involved, left no room for denial. "Commander Voss," began the Thraxis Prime Adjudicator, his voice translated through the station's systems. "Your actions have precipitated a crisis of unprecedented proportions. Billions of citizens across 3 civilizations now demand answers their governments cannot provide. What outcome did you envision when you facilitated this?" Revelation. Aaron met the alien's compound gaze without flinching. "I envisioned exactly this. Adjudicator. A moment where truth forces us all to confront what has been done in the name of security. of species survival, of technological superiority. She gestured to the assembled delegates. For decades, we have operated on the assumption that conflict between our peoples is inevitable, that deception and preemptive strikes are necessary. Project Revenant was merely the latest expression of that belief, a weapon born from the minds of those your experiments shattered. Murmurs rippled through the assembly. A Noor arbiter stepped forward, the patterns across her exoskeleton shifting to deep crimson. "You speak of truth as if it were a simple matter." The arbiter's translated voice resonated. "Yet your own kind has manipulated genetic structures of settlement worlds, rendering them uninhabitable to Noor physiology. Is this not also an atrocity?" "It is," Aaron acknowledged, "and those responsible should face consequences, just as those who authorized nerve agent testing on Noor-occupied human colonies should, just as those who developed the molecular unraveling technology that claimed thousands of human lives should." From the coalition delegation, Admiral Trent rose to his feet. "Commander Voss does not speak for humanity," he declared. "Her actions were those of a rogue officer who will face appropriate disciplinary measures." "With respect, Admiral," came a new voice as Leon Maris materialized on the assembly floor, a holographic projection from the unknown, which maintained position outside the station. "Commander Voss speaks for the truth, something you sacrificed long ago." The assembly erupted in tension, security personnel moving to protective positions around their respective delegates. But Leon's projection simply stood there, emaciated and ghostly, yet somehow commanding the attention of the entire hall. "I did not come to threaten," he continued. "I came to demand justice, not vengeance, though Earth knows I have earned that right. Justice, trials for those who authorized atrocities, reparations for the victims, dismantling of all secret weapons programs, Thraxis, Noor, and human alike." "Or what?" challenged a Thraxis commander. "You'll unleash your matter-unmaking weapon on our homeworlds?" Leon's projection smiled sadly. "No, that would make me no better than those who turned me into this." He gestured to his own insubstantial form. "Instead, I offer something else. The complete neural mapping of Project Revenant, the technology that allows traumatized minds to interface with systems, to share memories, to reveal truth, freely given to all three civilizations, with one condition, that it be used for healing, not harm, for connecting, not destroying." Silence fell over the assembly as the implications settled. The technology that had created the unknown, if repurposed, could revolutionize everything from medical treatment of psychological trauma to cross-species communication to historical documentation. "What you propose," the Noor arbiter said slowly, "would fundamentally alter the balance of power." "There is no balance," Aaron interjected. "Only the illusion of it, maintained through escalating secrecy and weaponry. What Leon offers is the possibility of something new." The negotiations that followed lasted weeks. Temporary accords were signed, then amended, then strengthened. Committees were formed to investigate the evidence Leon had released. Tribunals were established to hear testimony from victims of all species. Reparation frameworks were drafted and debated. And through it all, Erin found herself at the center. No longer a coalition officer, her commission had been formally revoked by Admiral Trent on the second day, but something new. Humanity's envoy to the emerging Coalition Council, a body representing all three civilizations. Her crew stood by her. Shale, with his analytical mind and diplomatic instincts, became her chief advisor. Mira, finding purpose in her trauma, established contact with other survivors of Proxima, creating a support network that gradually extended to include alien victims of similar experiments. Even Zara remained, her irreverent humor providing necessary levity during the darkest moments of testimony. Leon Maris, meanwhile, founded what became known as the Survivors Guild, a cross-species organization dedicated to documenting atrocities, supporting victims, and ensuring the neural interface technology was used ethically. The Unknown became their headquarters, docked permanently at Aurora's Grace, its black hull gradually softening to a deep blue as the neural patterns within evolved beyond pain and vengeance toward something approaching wisdom. 6 months after the incident that had changed everything, Aaron stood on the observation deck of Earth's moon, watching the sunrise paint the ancient homeworld in gold and blue. Beside her, a communication panel chimed with incoming messages, reports from the new Joint Scientific Commission, updates on the decommissioning of weapons platforms, requests for her presence at upcoming diplomatic functions. The work was far from complete. Old hatreds still flared. Political factions resistant to change still maneuvered for advantage. The path forward remained uncertain. But as she watched the light spread across Earth's surface, Aaron felt something she had almost forgotten. Hope, not the desperate hope of the outmatched, praying for survival against overwhelming odds, but the grounded hope of those who had glimpsed a different possibility and committed themselves to its realization. The door behind her slid open, and she turned to find Mira entering, her uniform replaced by the simple gray of the Survivors Guild. "They're ready for you in the memorial ceremony," the young woman said. "The Thraxis delegation has arrived, including families of those lost in the incident." Aaron nodded, taking a deep breath. "How are you holding up?" Mira's smile was small but genuine. "Better. The neural therapy Leon developed. It helps, not to forget, but to carry the memories differently." She hesitated. "He's there too, as much as he can be." They walked together toward the ceremony that would commemorate all those lost in the decades of shadow conflict, the first public acknowledgement by all 3 species of their shared culpability and shared grief. "Do you ever regret it?" Mira asked quietly as they approached the gathering. "Your decision that day?" Aaron considered the question seriously. "No," she finally said. "I regret that it was necessary. I regret the pain it caused, the instability, the fear, but not the choice itself." She looked at the assembled representatives, human, Thraxis, Noor, gathered together not in triumph or defeat, but in solemn recognition. Some truths demand to be spoken, no matter the cost. As they joined the assembly, Aaron caught sight of Leon's projection, standing slightly apart, watching the proceedings with eyes that had seen too much, but somehow retained their humanity. Their gazes met across the chamber, a silent acknowledgement passing between them. They had both been weapons, in their way. Her, the loyal officer willing to sacrifice herself and her crew for the greater good. Him, the shattered veteran whose trauma had been weaponized into something terrible and wonderful. But they had chosen, in the crucial moment, to be something more, to believe that conscious power could surpass destructive might. That memory, honestly shared, could heal what secrecy had wounded. And in that choice, perhaps, lay the beginnings of a different kind of strength, not just for humanity, but for all who called the stars their home.